So this is the last wing. It is Blair's Mega Death Sauce.
I can't
with
even
liquid
think.
rage.
It's sort of a tradition around here to put a little extra dab on the last wing.
Oh!
Ooh, you dabbed out.
That is a tangy, delicious hot sauce.
Yeah, that one's sitting slow now.
Joking.
You did? You cried?
Cried.
Real actual tears, Prince.
Get out of here.
Give me a water, man. See me over here struggling? Shit. Come on.
Whoa!
Hey, 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 hey.
Look at that.
It's a beautiful picture.
Wonderful photo. Let's go back to the beginning of this. From what I
Sure.
understand, you're a reporter. You start shooting on-air interview or shooting video interviews with
Right,
some of the people.
right.
When do wings get involved?
Well, my partner in all of this, Chris Schoenberger, he comes up to me and he's like, I have this idea. What do you think about interviewing celebrities but making them eat violently hot chicken wings? And I'm like, the way it just hit my ear, I'm like, that's the funniest thing ever. So we get in a room, we start working this whole thing out. And originally it was supposed to be this like interrogation room where it's like the celeb is just eating wings and maybe there's like a light that's dangling and I'm just hammering them with questions while they completely melt down. So that was the original idea behind this whole thing. And then we call up Tony Yayo from G Unit to help us workshop this thing. And then he was the one that's kind of like, you know what? It's like, what self-respecting celeb is gonna come in here and put up with this just to promo their movie or something? They're like, if you're not eating wings, nobody's gonna come in here. So we're like, oh yeah, it's like a good idea, Tony Yayo. Like maybe we should do that.
That's the thing that you always forget, or people always forget when it comes to promotional interviews and stuff. Because you see on Fallon or all these other places,
Right.
games that celebrities are playing. But like, if you're not the most watched late night show every night of the week, nobody
It's
wants
tough
to play
to
a
get people
game
to
with
play.
you. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So especially starting out, and we just look like a freak show. Like it's me, it's this studio that's just all black curtains, like it's completely stripped down. We have all these hot sauces and these chicken wings, like it's so uninviting. So in the original, like working it out, we had to kind of like trick people into doing it. You know, it was very like Borat-like, you know, whereas kind of like they didn't really understand what they were getting themselves into until it's too late. And that's the good thing about it is once you trap a celeb on your show, they can't really make like a graceful exit without looking like a jerk. So like once they're there, then they'll play. Now at this point, thankfully, it's kind of at a point where people know the show, they understand it, and so we don't have to jump through those hurdles. But in the early going, like, yeah, it was like...
Who was the first one?
The first one was, we shot the pilot with Tony Yayo, who helped us workshop it. And then the very first one, I think, was Machine Gun Kelly. That was like the first, like, 10 wings thing. And it was very early on that we knew that it would work because Machine Gun Kelly's getting up, he's walking around, he's screaming, he's sweating, he's spitting into garbage cans. And that's when I was like, this is just good TV. You know what I mean? Like, we knew that the hot sauce...
You're punishing someone on television. That's
Yeah,
good
exactly.
television.
And even with the hot sauce, we didn't even understand all the byproducts, the consequences of that, the unintended ones. Like, we knew it would be a disruptive element. We knew it would take celebrities and their, you know, flight control, like, take them out of their little, like, pattern that they go when they do these things. We knew it would be disruptive. We did not know that it would have all these other things. We didn't know it would maybe give people more honest answers. We didn't know that they'd be doing laps around the studio, leaving the studio, coming back, overcoming this adversity. It's very dramatic all the way through. And we never really thought that any of that stuff would happen until it just started happening. And Machine Gun Kelly, first one right away, I knew.
Who was the celebrity so far that you just couldn't believe that you booked? I mean, I'm sure every one of them a little
Yeah.
bit. You're like, I can't believe you're gonna do this. This is wonderful. But the one that you were like, wow, this is unbelievable.
The way the Kevin Hart thing came together was kind of crazy because he's such a big star, but he was shooting Jumanji in Hawaii and like wanted to do the show or whatever. But then, you know, like obviously we're like, oh, well, that's kind of an issue or whatever. But then like his team like flew us out and put us up and like all that stuff for the show. It's like the way that whole thing came together because at the time and maybe even ever, he was the biggest name we booked. And then he was also the one that extended the furthest for us. So it was like all of that at once that it was like, oh, okay, like this is pretty awesome.
Now, what do you think it was about the show that made him say yes? Do you think it was the interviewing style? Does he love wings? Like what? Where do you think it came from initially? Like the impetus?
Well, I think that we're a good show if you want to put highly targeted eyeballs on your project, because people are into the drama, like that sort of wing over wing, watching them melt down thing. So I think that is just like a show as like a thing. If you're gonna do some sort of promo opportunity, it's painful and it sucks, but on sort of a pound for pound basis, you're gonna get a real stretch out of it because it is popular. Like, people do talk about it. It is that sort of like highly targeted thing. And then I think that increasingly celebs are finding that, you know, like in the YouTube space, in the digital space, they can kind of extend a little bit more. You know, the late night shows don't have the punch that they used to have. And so now there are these sort of like upstart franchises and shows that bubble up online. And now it's just not even a bad play if you're gonna do press. That's what I think.
So you get Machine Gun Kelly,
Yep.
you get him running around the room,
Yep.
spitting, freaking out. You realize in that moment, this is unbelievable television.
I'm like, like while it's happening, there are times that like while it's happening, I'm like, this is good internet. You know what I mean? And while that was happening, I'm like, this is just good video. This is good internet. Like, we can make him suffer, put him in pain without actually beating him up. And isn't that kind of what you want to see? Isn't that what the world kind of wants to see? So like while that was happening, I'm like, wow, like we can really do this without actually, you know, punching somebody or like actually like putting them through something or like freezing the room or heating up the room. And like just with hot sauce, it can kind of just melt people down, break people down. And while that was all happening, I was like, we got a hit on our hands.
How good are you at eating the wings at this point? How well can you take the heat?
So I think that I was always pretty good, and I would like when, you know, I'd get something. I like to kick it a little bit. I like getting the little. I like setting my tongue on fire a little bit, just getting it like to hum a little bit. And then when I was a kid, my dad, he would get regular hot salsa. So if I'm watching the Chicago Bears on Sunday, right, I had to go with the regular hot salsa. When I'm a kid, I'm like, Dad, it's kind of hot. Like, can we get mild salsa? And he's like, not in my house. Like, if you want to eat salsa, you have to eat real salsa. So I think it kind of put a good baseline, a good foundation. That said, I'm not reaching for death sauce and putting it on my eggs. So it was a little bit of building up a tolerance, suffering for the craft, you know, all of those things. If I want to pat my, you know. So I was going through all those things and building it up. And even now, it is still like very much a tough experience. You know, you still have to endure it every time. And it's not like I'm some superhero that can just throw down hot food. I'm not like one of these YouTube challenge guys that wants to be like, I can put like, do all that. And I never wanted to be that guy. So yeah, it does kind of suck a little bit. But as long as the people keep tuning in and liking it and it keeps scaling and building, I'll continue to set my face on fire.
Do you even want to eat wings when you're not shooting the show anymore? Do you have any thirst or taste for them?
There's part of me that feels like Michael Cera. You know, like there is part of me that feels like I've been typecasted. You know, like when people come to New York, they're like, we gotta go get wings. You know what I mean? Like, let's go get wings. Everybody that calls me up for like a project, they're like, we gotta do wings. Or like when I come do things, like I'm surprised you don't have a bunch of hot sauces that are like, this is Satan's diarrhea. It's 1,000,000 Scoville. It's the hottest hot sauce ever. You wanna try a dab? Like, that's my whole life. So sometimes I feel like, you know, maybe I'll try other things. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like the wing guy who's just only eating
Well,
wings.
like if you go to a bar with some
I'll
friends,
never order wings.
You'll never
if I'm
order
getting
wings.
takeout or carry out, I'm not getting wings. Like on the Super Bowl, I'm very much a nachos guy these days.
Were you a wings guy before, or have
Well, who doesn't?
nachos were your kid? You said when you were a kid.
Yeah. Well, who doesn't love wings? Wings are amazing. Wings are great. So I guess I was like a wing guy, but nothing. I never dreamed I'd be this wing guy. You know, I'd be that into the genre.
Is there ever going to be a vegetarian option for vegetarian?
So, yeah, that happens all the time, actually. Like, Ricky Gervais came on the show, so we got him, vegan wings, Russell Brand. I can go on and on. Like, we've had a ton of guests that have a vegan or vegetarian substitute for the wings. For, you know, we'll get almond milk. Like, we'll do whatever the guest wants on, like, a dietary level. And that's important, too, because it is, like, very much not about, like, meat or, like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really think of that as like the thing, you know, like whatever. Like if it's vegan wings, it's vegan wings because it's really just a vehicle for the hot sauce. Right. You know what I mean? The hot sauce is really the star of the show, not the wings.
Well, the hot sauce and the conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ricky.
Well, when you get into this conversation and people are getting punished and it turns into a bit of a truth serum for them,
Yeah.
what have you been the most surprised to learn in those moments? Or when did you have a moment where you were like, well, this person is telling me stuff that they wouldn't normally tell me.
Well, I think that like happens all the time. Like, you know, like Neil deGrasse Tyson will be like, I took 2 bites and I don't know like where this is coming out, but you'll see like a swear out of Neil deGrasse Tyson when you probably wouldn't see it. Jim Gaffigan, who never ever curses, was like lighten up that episode. You know what I mean? So it does show a different side of these people because it's like kind of just a suffering situation, and then just on a full court press level, we have all these cameras on them. And then the other side of it too is I think that people give you a longer leash if you're like suffering or dying. You know, like they're not hyper analyzing every anecdote or like every story or like every word.
Especially if you're suffering and dying with them.
Right.
At the
It's
same
like
time.
this like shared thing. We like build a trust with each other. So that's what I think it is. You know, it takes them out of their flight pattern. Plus, we do go the extra miles so that our guest knows that we're about what they're about, and so that they feel more comfortable in the setting. And that's what I've found is the best way to get the most out of people. Because really, like a celeb doing a press run doesn't have to share anything with you. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I
Like,
know.
and so if we can just kind of like bring this sort of circus freak show environment, do everything we can to make them feel comfortable, I think they realize like this is just a little bit different, and then, you know, they go there.
Who's been your favorite guest so far? If you can
That's
say
a good
that.
question. I can say it, I don't care. I think that like when it started and I'm like, this is my buddy and we're gonna be buddies and this is like a whole thing, like just the best, most electric like room was with Nori. Another great one I think was Russell Brand, because he came in like a little bit nervous, but he has this like such this presence about him. He's like floating on air and like comes in, he's like so smart, so brilliant. Like
Wearing shoes when he came in, or
he was wearing shoes. He was wearing shoes, but he's so like nice and pleasant, like working the room and
Russell
stuff.
Brand. Excuse me, I'm thinking of Russell Simmons. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah, it was Russell Brand. So, like, but then too, I like a Post Malone. Like, I look at him, I think about him. Like, now, I like all of them for different reasons. And I think, too, that the fans like all the episodes for different reasons. You know, it's crazy. Like, in the comments, it'll be like, worst guest ever. And then the next comment will be, this is the best episode ever. You know, and I think that that's kind of the magic of the show a little bit.
How many have you done so far?
Oh, man, like 80. You know, I don't know, like, yeah, like I've done this 80 times, and I don't know where the end is.
What's the most you've done in a week?
4.
So you've done like 4 wings challenges for yourself.
Yeah, like 1 meal a week, like, or 1 meal a day for like a whole work week is just shooting this show.
When you finish shooting, do you work with the editing team to cut it together and
Yeah,
everything? Or are
writing
you
the
like,
edit. Yeah,
I'm done,
this-
I'm going to bed?
No, I ride the edit too after that. And then, like, I don't know, it's like there's always work. You know, like people they gloss over that way too quickly, Ricky. They don't understand. Yeah, like this is very much like I'm very much like a part of like Hot Ones sucked me in, and now I'm stuck in this Hot Ones sunken place that I
Co-created the show. I'd imagine that you write it out, but when you finish a shoot, do you go take a nap, or are you like ready to keep working?
So it depends. Like
If I
at
ate
this
wings in the
point,
middle of the day, I'd crash.
yeah, you would think, but I don't know. You just gotta kind of keep it going. We've done a couple things where we've actually gone even hotter than the wings. I've eaten 2 Carolina Reapers, which is the hottest pepper in the world. And that is crazy.
Poor thing.
That is crazy. That's way hotter than our hottest wing. So like on those particular shoots, I'll tell people, like Sarah's here, like I'll just tell her, I'll be like, I'm gonna eat this. You guys can roll for 10 minutes. Then I'm getting in the cab and I'm going home and I'm eating ice cream and I'm sipping milk, and I don't want anybody to talk to me. I don't want anybody to text me. Because you know, like when you're in pain and people are laughing at you, you're instantly in like this like rage, you know how like puts you in this state? So it's like that, like I'm in pain and like I'm dying, it's very uncomfortable, and I'm sweating from the face, and there's just like 4 cameras in my face, you know, and then it's like a director going like, hey, can you say that line, you say that again, you know, like, 'cause the show keeps
like,
going. Yeah, just battling through it, But then I'll be like, nobody bother me. I put on some gym shorts, I zen out. I've actually come to very much appreciate those quiet after hours.
I'm gonna ask something, sorry that I'm gonna ask this.
Go
You
there,
eat
Ricky.
wings 4 times a week, you're eating Carolina peppers.
Yeah.
What's it doing to your BMs, my friend?
That's a fair question. And one time, I was at the hot bar at Whole Foods, and this total like rando stranger bum rushed me with that question. So you don't have to feel strange about going
At
there.
least it's my job.
And then I'm like talking it through with this stranger in Whole Foods, and I'm like, well, what is this? What am I doing? The fact of the matter is,
Approach because I tried to do it delicately.
He's
He was like, yo, how's your shit?
yeah,
Like,
no, he was like this. Yeah, it was like that. He was like, hey, dude, are you Sean Evans? And I was like, hey, yeah, what's up, man? And he was like, how's your butthole? Like that was like the first thing that came out. So I was like, All right, like thanks, dude. It's good. Like, do you want like? And then he's like, oh, can we get a snap? And then like that was the whole interaction. But you know what? The biology is more or less adjusted by now, for better or worse. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad sign, but like early on, long lonely nights early on for sure.
But now it's just like having a regular breakfast.
Yeah, like
Cup of coffee
which
in
is
the morning.
probably like scary. Yeah, which is probably bad.
You're
But
gonna end up going to the doctor in like a year, and he's
but
like,
that's the
"Yeah,
other thing too. I'm like avoiding the doctor too because I feel like he's gonna put an end to my wave. You know what I mean? So like the whole thing. I got blinders on the whole thing.
Like, you have an ulcer. You're
Yeah,
done
like,
with this
all
for
right,
a little
but I'd
while.
be like, all right, well, season 4 is launching soon. Can I go? You know, like I'm gonna be like a football player playing through the injury.
So you said you're riding this wave, and this wave is over 1 million subscribers at this point, right? Is
yeah,
that what
yeah.
it is?
We're over 1 million. Almost makes all of that worth it. But yeah, we just went over 1 million, and it's been crazy. It's been crazy, and that like really snuck up on us because I felt like it was growing kind of slow and steady for a while, and then over the past like 3 or 4 months, it just exploded.
Have you had one of these not work out? You set up a shoot, you sit down with someone, they start eating, like, I can't do it, and then it's just kind of wrap it up?
No, we've never shot an interview that we've scrapped. You know, like for whatever reason, it's just the magic of the wings. It's the magic of the hot sauce. Like it's always just.
Who's your dream guest?
So for me, I would say like it's I've sort of become this wedding DJ where now my whole life people just scream requests at me. You know, like whatever. That's like all the comments. It's like my entire Twitter mentions is I'm just like walking around and everyone's going like, oh, you got to get this part. So like just so people would get off my back, I would like to get Bill Burr, who I know is like here today. I'd like to get Bill Burr on the show. I'd like to get Gordon Ramsay on the show. Those are like far and away the most requested people. And at the same time, too,
Better get him some good wings, because Ramsey will shit all over some bad wings if he doesn't like them.
But then don't you think that that's good TV? Like maybe we should get him like the worst wings ever, and then just see how combustible Ramsey really is. You know?
What about Tom Cruise?
Tom Cruise, like that would be like great, you know, like on like I'd be like that would be great because not that anybody requests Tom Cruise, maybe they should.
I can't believe nobody requests Tom Cruise. That's the most manicured celebrity that there is, most controlled celebrity that there is. Getting him into a situation where he's suddenly getting stung and is getting bitten a little bit,
right?
You would get something new.
You're right, Ricky. That's shooting right up into my top 5 now.
Let's get some questions from the audience. Who has questions? You're holding a microphone and you're sitting right there, so question.
Hi. I was just wondering, do you have any questions that you prefer to ask before or after you start to get to the hotter wings?
That's a good. You know what? That's a good question. I actually feel like I could do a whole symposium on like the psychology of these questions because we know that at some point the person we're interviewing is going to break down. You know, and we do care about the interview. We do think that we're an interview show first, and then this sort of freak show second. Some fans probably think of it the other way around. But so early on, we know that, like, for example, in this upcoming episode, we have Nick Kroll, right? And we know that fans, they want to hear about the league, and they want to hear about these things. So we kind of front load the interview with the things that we think on just an editorial level the fans are going to be interested in. And then sort of later in the game, it becomes these sorts of like, show them pictures, have them react to them. Like these sorts of things that like, we know they're going to be just sizzled down. And if it has like maybe some brick potential, maybe we'll kind of backload it because we know that like the suffering through the Q&A is going to save the Q&A if the Q&A stinks. And then for the 10th wing, we try to do like, either it's like the question everybody's been waiting for us to ask, or it's some sort of like weird curveball or some sort of like opportunity for them to be like motivational or whatever, because we know that they're going to be suffering on the hot sauce, and then that is just going to automatically be funny.
Next question.
Good question.
If you had any way to take it up a notch, what would you do? Not like wings or the hot sauce, but just...
Yeah, I mean, we always think about that. I've always wanted an animator because we have so many amazing stories and anecdotes in these interviews, and I think that, you know, you can only get so far with the Getty images and the camera angle, so I've always wanted, you know, like some really cool looking aesthetic, like cartoon situation to kind of take people through these anecdotes, so if we ever... budget, then that'll work out that way. But Also, too, on just like a hot sauce level, I think that like, yeah, we think about, you know, is it hot? Like, are we getting those? And then we do think about, you know, spicing it up that way too, is actually just getting hotter hot sauces.
Next question.
Hey, Sean.
Hey, man.
Love the show.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, like, is there like a particular place where you guys go to get these hot wings? I
Yeah.
always wondered about that.
Yeah, so it's like the show travels all over the place, so it's kind of like we make do. Like the Russell Brand episode, Ricky Gervais episode, Charlie Sloth, we shot those in London. We shoot a ton of our episodes in LA. We shoot obviously a lot here in New York. The episode that's up today, we shot it in Columbus, Ohio. Maybe they want like the vegan option in those cities, like maybe whatever. So maybe it's 10 a.m. and we gotta get wings for Guy Fieri and we have to like just find something. So it kind of switches up, but most of the time we just like send an intern to B-dubs.
Who's in the episode today?
Coyote Peterson, who's like this like wildlife guy. He's got a YouTube channel and he gets like bit by dangerous insects and stuff. We're kind of like the same person, but like in a different school. Same college, different major.
So you went to Hawaii for Kevin Hart. They brought you up to Hawaii.
Yeah,
Where did you
Hawaii.
get the wings there?
I think B-dubs, I think, actually. They have B-dubs. They have B-dubs in Hawaii, and we're like, yeah, just go to B-dubs.
I think we have time for one more question. Oh, I think that was the last question. My apologies. So the show is on YouTube. What is the YouTube channel that people can see Hot Ones at?
So the YouTube channel is First We Feast. The show is Hot Ones. We have other shows as well. Food Grills,
Shows
Food
that you
Skills.
host as well, right?
And then, yeah, I host another one called Sean in the Wild. So we really are kind of building out this whole programming slate where I just travel around and eat amazing food with cool guests, and that's kind of just how I'm making my whole life. Until somebody calls me out on it.
Congratulations, Sean. Hot One. Sean Evans, everybody. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.